Let's have a look at the day's business news then. Stephen's with us once again here on the set. Stephen, you're starting with a Chinese telecom firm. This is ZTE. It's being allowed to do business in the United States once again, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. The company had been banned by Washington from operating in the US after saying that it had broken an agreement to discipline executives that were responsible for evading sanctions on North Korea and Iran. But the Commerce Department has given it a partial reprieve from the ban until the 1st of August. Now, that will allow ZTE, which makes smartphones and network equipment, to continue operating existing networks and to handle customer support for contracts that it signed before the 15th of April. Last month, the company had committed to pay a fine of $1 billion and sack its senior management in order to keep working in the US, which makes up a third of its business. Well, ZTE's shares have taken a hammering over that ban when it was first announced. Today, they're trading down even after that temporary reprieve in Hong Kong. Their shares down just over 1%, in line with what's happening across the broader markets as well. The Hang Seng down over 1% as well. Generally speaking, it's trade tensions back on the agenda for investors. This is as a deadline looms this Friday for more American tariffs on Chinese imports. $34 billion worth of goods in the firing line this time around. That's the picture on the Asian markets. Let's take a look at how Europe has opened up. And it's a similar picture. The market's dipping into the red at the open here in Europe. Oil and gas companies are getting a bit of a boost from higher oil prices. But the other side of that is that it's hurting the travel and leisure sector, which of course relies on low fuel prices to keep prices low for its customers as well. That's the picture on the European markets. Next to Italy, where the new government has rolled out its first major economic reforms, but it scales back one of former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi's main achievements, and that's an overhaul of the labour market. This as the country's unemployment levels have dropped to their lowest in almost 6 years. Solange Majan reports.
An election battle cry turned into reforms. After just over a month on the job, Italy's new Labour Minister, Luigi Di Maio, is trying to make good on a campaign promise to increase job security.
We must fight against insecurity. The misuse of temporary job contracts ends now.
The decree rolls back some of former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi's controversial labour reforms. His package went into effect in 2015 and helped create over 1 million jobs, but nearly 75% of them were on fixed-term contracts. The new rules will try to tackle that by putting a 2-year cap on the duration of the short-term contracts, as well as increase taxes for renewed ones. And for unjust dismissals, the law will increase compensation to 36 months. For many Italians, the populist government's moves are a good thing.
Most young people don't have permanent contracts. They go from one job to another, which lasts 2 to 3 months. So I agree with this reform.
For us young people, it's good. We'll have more advantages.
But some business owners say the new decree will spell the end to Italy's current unemployment rate, which is at a nearly 6-year low.
This is a mistake. Jobs aren't made by stricter rules. All of this won't create anything positive.
Italy's main business union called the move a first negative signal to the business world, one that for them proves the new government is, quote, shifting into reverse.
India's top court has upheld a ban on lenders dealing in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. The central bank measure in place since April effectively outlaws the industry in India. The finance ministry there has yet to make a decision on the ban, but the recent volatility in prices has encouraged policymakers elsewhere to take a sceptical view of the sector. The American bookseller Barnes & Noble has fired its CEO for violating company policies. Now, the firm hasn't given an exact reason for Demos Parneros' departure, but they say that it wasn't linked to any financial or fraud issues. Mr. Parneros won't receive any severance pay as part of his departure. He is the 4th chief executive to leave Barnes & Noble in the past 5 years. And finally, for me, a court in California has ruled that the review site Yelp doesn't have to take down negative comments left by its users. The decision came after a San Francisco lawyer had taken a case accusing a client of posting defamatory statements about her on Yelp. Now, the company was ordered to remove them in a previous court decision, but they appealed, arguing that it wasn't responsible for users' comments. California's Supreme Court agreed and said the decision to remove posts was at the company's discretion and that forcing a site to do so can impose substantial burdens on an online firm. The question of free speech, if someone's saying something mean about you.
I know. No Yelp there then?
No Yelp.
Oh, naff puns, we love them. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen Carroll with Business on France 24. Deep